Shalom, Israel. This is Bishop Nathaniel. The Israelites have been scattered across the four corners of the earth, as prophesied in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. Here in Israel United in Christ, we need your help to recover the remnant of our people, teach them the gospel. Please help us, support us, and join or donate to the Booster Club today. Shalom.
And guess what? You can read the black man's history in the Bible. Let's get to Deuteronomy, chapter 1 and verse 1. So we're going to show you something that you may not have heard before that's in the Bible. So you know history, right? Yeah. You've heard of slavery, I'm presuming.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. A hot topic.
Yeah, hot topic, right?
Very hot topic.
Can I read about slavery in the Bible?
No.
Are you sure?
But actually you can, because...
I'm talking about transatlantic slavery, the one that's just happened a couple hundred years ago.
Oh, no.
Right, let's get that. So Deuteronomy 1 verse 1. What we're going to show you is that the churches, they've not been teaching our people the truth of the Bible. Because remember, we were speaking earlier and we said that what? Christianity and religion is separate to what the Bible's actually saying. So let's read that.
This is the book of Deuteronomy chapter 1 and verse 1. These be the words which Moses spake unto all Israel on the side Jordan in the wilderness.
So Moses is speaking to the children of Israel after they just come out of Egypt. Speaking to the children of Israel. Remember, Christ is from the tribe of Judah. Christ is an Israelite. So this is Christ's people. Now Moses, he came with laws and commandments, but he also came with a warning as to what would happen if we broke those commandments. Right? So let's get Deuteronomy 28 and verse 15. We're going to show you the warning that Moses gave to the children of Israel as to what will happen if they broke the commandments. Right? Read.
This is the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 15. But it shall come to pass.
It shall come to pass, that means in the future. Right? Read.
If thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
If you don't listen, you Israelites don't listen to what God's saying.
To observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day.
And you don't keep his statutes and his commandments. Read.
That all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
All these curses will come upon the Israelites if they didn't keep the commandments. Now, is a curse a good or a bad thing?
A very bad thing.
Right, let's get to verse 46. Because these curses, they do something very special and very important.
Verse 46. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever.
So these curses will be upon the Israelites for a sign. A sign tells you what something is. Like if we look at KFC's right here, right? The sign tells us KFC. We look across the street, the arches tells us, the sign tells us it's McDonald's. So these curses are assigned to the Israelites to tell them who they are. Right? And it says upon your seed forever. That's talking about your children. Generation after generation after generation forever. Meaning what? Still when?
Even today.
Even today.
It's a long, everlasting curse, because obviously you've broken the commandments.
Right. Exactly. So the children of the Israelites, for them breaking the commandments, would inherit the curses. Now, we were talking about transatlantic slavery, right? Let's get verse 68.
This is the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
Now, when the Israelites were in Egypt the first time, they were doing what?
When the Israelites, basically they were slaves building pyramids for the pharaohs and stuff.
So when it says you're going to go into Egypt again, what do you think it's saying?
That basically, no matter how far they travel, and because of God's punishment, because they broke the commandments, they'll always find hardship. And obviously with the whole ships and stuff, it's a pre-warning that obviously one of the punishments they're going to face and hardships is enslavement overall. Once again, if not in this century, for their ancestors and their following ancestors they're going to find that hardship because it's the punishment that God has cursed them with for their willfully breaking the commandments.
So to sum it up, the word Egypt is talking about captivity, right? So read that again.
Verse 68, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
So God says for breaking God's commandments, the Israelites will go into slavery on slave ships. Now, who did that happen to in history?
Black people.
Right. Also Hispanics and Native Americans, right?
Yeah.
So it's telling you that what? The so-called blacks are the Israelites according to the Bible, because this is their history. This is what happened to us, right? Read on.
By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again.
So your homeland, you'll never see anymore again. Read.
And there
So when you got off those slave ships, read.
ye shall be sold.
That's funny because that's what the white slavers used to say to the Africans when they brought them to the market, that when they captured them, that they'll never see their homelands again. So that verse that you just said is something similar to what they were told by the white slavers, to forget their names, forget their identities, because they'll never see their homeland again. So, and there it is in the Bible. In the kind of
Right, exactly. We're gonna because he said something and we're gonna touch on it in a bit. Read on.
Thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and for bondwomen.
So when we got off of the slave ships, we were sold unto the people that took us into slavery, our enemies for slave men and slave women. This is your history in the Bible. Read.
And no man shall buy you.
And no man will be able to save you from the conditions that you're in. Because something you just mentioned, right, is they took away our identity, our names, things like that. Let's get verse 37. Because everything you just said is written in the Bible over 3,000 years ago. Read.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 37. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee.
So remember, we went into all nations on slave ships. So in these nations, we will become a proverb and a byword. But what does that mean? What's a proverb?
oh my God. No, I'm not.
A proverb is like a wise saying. So we have a lot of sayings attached to us. Like black people eat chicken. If you want to hide something from a black man, put it in a book. Right? But these are the things that have been attached to our people. Right? Or for example, right. That's what a byword is. So a byword, remember, read that again.
Verse 37. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword.
Right, so a byword is something that's given to you outside your God-given name. So nigger, for example, or negro is a byword, because according to the Bible, we are the Israelites. Yeah?
Go to that.
Let's get that.
Isaiah 65:15.
Let's get Isaiah 65:15. So we're going to show you.
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 65 and verse 15. And ye shall leave your name for a curse unto my chosen, for the Lord God shall slay thee and call his servants by another name.
Right, because our name was Israel. That's what our name is, because we are the Israelites, right? But remember, it said we'll leave our name for a curse. One of the curses of God is that we will be given another name, right? And to get those names, a lot of our people were slayed, a lot of our people were whipped, right? That's why we have names like Johnson, Jenkins, Tomlinson, all these different names, Smith. It's not because that's our name, it's because that's a byword. And that's a curse from God for doing what? Breaking his commandments, right? So that's what we're showing you in the Bible. So we've read that our history is in the Bible. We've read that slavery and slave ships is in the Bible, and it will happen to who?
Only us black people, basically.
The nation of, do you remember the name?
Right. Israel.
Right, the nation of Israel. So because this history happened to us, and it will happen to the nation of Israel, that makes us who?
Israelites.
Israelites. So as an Israelite, what do we have to do? All praise to the Most High, we know we're Israelite. What's next?
Basically, where I'm fitting right now is basically go back to our homeland and obviously try to... Well, there's nothing much you can do now.
I got a question. Why did these curses happen to us? We read it.
As a punishment.
For doing what?
For breaking the 10 Commandments.
Not just the 10 Commandments, but for breaking the commandments. So my question is, in order for these curses to reverse themselves, what do you think we have to do? If we broke the commandments and got cursed, in order to be blessed, we have to
Obviously, pray to God. Or ask.
I'll ask it again. Ask it again. If we broke the commandments, right, we got curses. So in order to get blessings, we must do what, do you think? Breaking commandments equals curses. So to get blessing, you must...
Oh,
What's the opposite of breaking the commandments?
not breaking it.
So keeping the commandments. So as Israelites, we must keep the commandments. Let's read that. We're going to show you. We're going to show you in the scriptures plain, yeah?
The original 10 Commandments. When they destroyed by Moses, and there were new ones made.
We're going to show you because there's a lot more commandments than just 10. A lot of the times when we hear commandments, right, we just think 10 commandments, right? That's what we think. But this is the thing. We read the Bible and there's way more than 10 commandments. Okay? Let's read 10 and 12.
Deuteronomy chapter 10 and verse 12. And now, Israel, what doth the Lord thy God require of thee? But to fear the Lord thy God, to walk in all his ways, and to love him, and to serve the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul. Verse 13.
So wait, it says, Israel, what's required of you? So what's required of Israel is to do all of these things, to love the Lord, to fear him. So the question is, how do we do that?
Verse 13. To keep the commandments of the Lord and his statutes, which I command thee this day for thy good.
So keeping of the commandments is what we're required to do. And it's for our own good. So if you know something is for your own good, your next question should be, how can I keep the commandments? Right? How can I keep the commandments? Now, we're going to give you just one commandment that you've probably never heard before. So if you look at all of us, we have these things on our shirts, right? We have these things on our shirts. Yeah? We're going to read the commandment where God told us to do these things, right? Let's get that in Numbers chapter 15.
Numbers chapter 15 and verse 38. Speak unto the children of Israel and bid them that they make them fringes in the borders of their garments throughout their generations.
Right, so remember we read upon your seed forever, meant unto this day. When it says put fringes, which are these, on your garments throughout your generations, it means the same thing unto today, right? Read.
And that they put upon the fringe of the borders a ribbon of blue.
And that we put upon our fringes, which are these, a ribbon of blue. So when you look at all of our fringes, we all have the blue ribbon on our fringes. Why? Because God commanded us to do it. And there's a reason behind that. Read on.
And it shall, verse 39, and it shall be unto you for a fringe, that ye may look upon it and remember all the commandments of the Lord and do them.
So the purpose of us having the fringes is that when we see our fringes, we're supposed to go, I need to keep the commandments, right? Because what you see in our society today is a lot of lawlessness. A lot of lawlessness. Our people, they do not want to keep God's commandments, right? We'll give you an example of that. Let's get Leviticus 19 verse 17. What would you... Well, this is one of the main issues with our communities in particular, right? Let's read that.
This is the book of Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 17. Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart.
There's a lot of hatred in our community. And the Bible's going to explain how there's a lot of hatred in our community. Read.
Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor and not suffer sin upon him.
So rebuke your neighbor means to correct your neighbor. Meaning if I see my brother in sin, right, I'm supposed to correct him. But what you have a lot in the black community in particular, we know there's evil going on in the community. We know our people are selling drugs to each other. We know our people are whoring out our sisters, sleeping with that woman and that one, then that one, then that one, leaving them with children. We know all of our people are doing these things. We know who stabbed Leroy, right? But we don't want to correct one another. So in doing that, that's having hatred because you're allowing your brother to stay in sin. Read on.
Verse 18. Thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I am the Lord.
So the Lord is telling us that we're not supposed to avenge or bear any grudges. Where do you think all of this black on black crime is coming from? It's coming from us bearing grudges one to another for beef that was started 20 years ago and you don't even know why it started, right? And now guess what? You're going back and forth, avenging. So if we in the black community just kept that one commandment, not avenging, not bearing grudges, how many people would still be alive today?
So many people.
So this is why the keeping of the commandments is for our own benefit, right? This is why the keeping of the commandments is for our own benefit.
We used to scream black power while Heron was pushed. But at the end of the day, nothing's in vain. IUIC has been given a vision. The tents of Judah has risen. Many has attempted the mission. Minor murmuring, omitting, and missing the mark. Just reading that he had the flame of fire in his eyes gave us the spark. We on Paul's mission. We out on the road, purple and gold. From Mexico, Cuba, Haiti, Ghana, Sierra Leone. 144,000 boots banging, concrete crackling. These are our men repented at heart. The scriptures is proof. IUIC, we deliver the truth.